Okay, it's time for our middle section, Gemma. Halloween! Scary stuff. It's Monday again, everybody. Our time-travelling podcast has now gone back to the beginning of the week where we've just watched the first episodes of Coronation Street. And, alright, we don't need any more of that, thank you. I was just going to say, Gemma, I quite enjoyed Mondays, Corrie, and I guess... Stop it, you put me off!
Why am I putting you off? It's just in the background.
And I hope the rest of the week... Stop, shut up! Stayed up to that level of, quality.
I can
You'll know
tell
because
you
you've been listening, listeners. You know whether I loved it at the end of the week.
Brilliant. And it went from strength to strength. What?
Nothing. Anyway, yeah, we're Monday night.
My favourite bit was the bit when David broke out of prison and stabbed Sinead to death.
What a twist.
It was a twist. I wasn't expecting it. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to lie.
And he's like, she was going to die anyway.
I liked it.
Anyway, we're here now to talk a little bit about Halloween-y things and ghosty things and paranormal-y things in Coronation Street Past, which I'm sure you're very excited about, Gemma, because
I love it.
As Rebecca pointed out to us on Patreon the other day, this is right up your street.
Yes, it is. That could be this segment every podcast where I just mention something I liked.
Yeah.
Just in general in the show.
I'm glad that they don't have I'm
sure I can think of at least one thing every week.
I'm glad they don't have too much of this stuff on Coronation Street.
You're boring.
Well, just because we don't want it to get too silly.
What do you mean silly? This is life and death, Michael.
Well,
you can't have a ghost without a dead person. This is serious.
I think I generally like it when it happens, because it's always like proven to be, false in the end anyway, and sometimes there's a little mystery.
Proven to be false?
Well, just like fake ghosts, like the Blackpool Butcher.
All real.
But no, it's been pretty cool. But I was quite surprised.
What?
The
Blackpool Butcher, that was at Christmas, wasn't it?
It was a New Year.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I was quite surprised when I was reading through it, I was looking at Corriepedia. They were massive help with this section, as they are for most middle sections.
We should always just credit at the beginning of every episode.
You put a blanket thanks to Corriepedia.
To Conversation Street with me, Gemma, him, Michael, and Corriepedia.
For all our background knowledge. But yeah, I did little Google searches about, not Google, searches within Corriepedia for like ghosts and Halloween and trick or treat, and there's not very much mention on there, which means to me that Coronation Street don't particularly go in for Halloween-y stuff very often.
Let us not forget that in this country, until very recently, Halloween was not really a thing.
No, I don't know how long has it been a thing?
Well, I definitely have photos of my parents dressed up for Halloween parties over the years. We've always had Halloween parties, I think, and trick-or-treating, I don't know.
It's got bigger, hasn't it? It's like in France, because that didn't used to be a thing at all, and just over the past 15, 20 years, like while we've been going, and when we've noticed, I noticed more and more sort of Halloween stuff and going in for all the American-themed shop displays and everything like that over there.
What's ghost in French?
Fantôme.
La nuit de fantôme.
Exactly. But Coronation Street, it's quite handy really for me because they just had on classic Coronation Street a Halloween-y episode, and it was sort of so minor, but it was all based around the fact that they were going to have a tarot card reader at the Rovers called Madame Zara, but then she called it off because she had a little premonition that she was going to break down on the way to Weatherfield, so she decided not to risk it and stayed at home instead.
Good idea. Vicious ring road.
But this left Bet in a bit of a state because she'd advertised for this tarot card reader, but luckily Maud Grimes came and saved the day by putting on her Beth Gypsy clothes, going into the back of the Rovers and doing fortune palm readings for some of the customers. So Vera was told that she would have a good fortune heading her way. Steve. There was a weird scene with Steve where you didn't see him in there with Maud, I think, but you saw him coming out. He was like in a daze saying something about he was going to get a new home with the aroma of egg and chips.
You can get that. Isn't that one of the candles that Sinead had burning?
Oh, yeah. I must have scented candles. And Curly was told that he has already met his future wife at work, and then he kind of goes off looking at, chasing after the deputy manageress. But obviously, Maud was referring to Raquel, who gets married
because
in a few years' time.
Because she is actually a fortune teller.
Who? Maud Grimes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Wow.
But we got a comment on Patreon from Fiona who also pointed this out and said There was old Mother Maud, who was a fortune-telling in the Rovers, much to Ivy's annoyance and Vera's delight. Everyone thought she was just faking all the stuff, but Vera had a big win at the bingo and on the horses after old Mother Maud told her she would have a change in fortunes.
Well, there you go. Two of the things came true. And what about egg and chips? I don't suppose Steve has never had egg and chips cooked for him.
Exactly.
In any of
all
his...
true. I thought it was quite funny watching it as well because Maureen, Maud's daughter, was sitting behind the customers getting their palms read, and she was like doing all this funny gesturing and everything to tell her if she was on the right track with this and that. So that was all quite funny. Mostly, as far as I could tell, the Halloween stuff on Coronation Street has involved parties going on at the Rovers. And
you haven't got anything about Rosemary, the psychic.
I have got
here,
stuff in the Rosemary
Okay.
about the psychic coming on later. I've got a
Okay,
little
great,
section for
right.
mediums later. So 2001, there was a hypnotist called the Great Orlando who showed up at the Rovers, and he hypnotised Blanche, making her think that Norris was Yul Brynner. Very sexy. And she also hypnotised...
What is it about Yul Brynner? My mum thinks he's sexy too.
It's the...
Hair?
He
The
doesn't
lack
have any
of?
hair. There was Curly, who he got to eat an onion like an apple, and Les Battersby, who
I'd be more
revealed he
impressed.
snogged Janice's sister on their wedding night, and that eventually led to the couple splitting up, so that was quite disastrous.
I'd be more impressed if they could get somebody to eat an apple like it's an onion.
Yeah, that would be good. Peel it. Reveal the layers beneath. In 2003, they had a big Halloween dress-up at the Rovers. I think this is probably the most they've pulled out the stops for Halloween on Coronation Street, and there's lots of...
Don't suppose they're going to do a nice, fun Halloween party.
Probably not. I think it would
Corrie
probably this year be,
Everyone
in bad
go as
taste.
Sinead.
It's bad enough us doing this middle section in the week where Sinead kicks the bucket, but... So Fred was dressed up as Frankenstein's monster, and it was all sort of grey face and everything. Steve is a werewolf who had...
Werewolf. Yeah.
That's how I say it. I say
Werewolf.
I know. I say werewolf, and I
Werewolf.
convince everybody else who says werewolf is wrong. I'm starting to wonder whether it's actually
How
me who's wrong
macabre
here.
of you.
That's another word that Gemma tells me I have to pronounce wrong.
Certainly like.
His werewolf outfit was made of salon floor trimmings. Kieran had an axe in his head, but that was a little bit too close to home for Ashley, because this is not long after Maxine had been bludgeoned to death
not
by
really
Richard
fair,
Tillman,
is
so
it?
Kieran had to kind of remove the axe.
When you're on a soap, you have to be a bit careful about all the drama that you could be.
And then we didn't have anything for ages, at the Rovers at least. 2016, there was Eva, Liz and Michelle dressing up as the Witches of Eastwick. I don't know if you remember that one.
You've missed out 2009.
I only missed that one out because it's nothing to do with the Rovers. I'll come back to that one in a minute. Because this was also where Stephen Kirk dressed up as Uncle Fester.
Premonition.
In tribute to our current Conversation Street podcast cover image for this week. And then last year they had Rovers Halloween as well, which was when this is Jenny's first.
Liz and Jenny were having a feud.
They were having a bit of a feud, weren't they? And
Yes.
Jenny thought that she could drop Liz in it by organising, or getting them rather, to organise a last-minute Halloween do at the Rovers, and then she went swan off shopping
did
or
anyway.
something. So she ordered
Pulled it right
costumes for Liz and Gemma to wear, which was the evil queen from Snow White, and then Gemma had to dress up as Snow White. But yeah, they did fine. And Jenny came back and had to graciously accept that Liz was all right at doing Halloween parties.
Disgusted that Jenny is going down the American route of acting as though Halloween is a fancy dress party when it is not.
I know, it's not the same thing, is it?
No.
Gotta be
In
scary
this
at
country,
Halloween.
I think we should maintain our roots and not allow people to dress up as anything unless it's Halloween related. I get really mad when people just dress up as anything.
Well, all the other ones look fine. And this is the other thing in 2009 you were talking about. Do you want to read that one out?
I need to add also, in
Go
the
on.
spirit of Halloween, Liz and Gemma weren't even sexy Wicked Queen and sexy Snow White. They were just normal.
Liz McDonald is sexy whatever she dresses up
Oh,
as, Gemma.
bless. How supportive of you.
And Gemma, of course.
Also misogynistic, but never mind. Leanne dresses up Simon as a ghost in 2009 and gets him to hide behind the door to scare Peter, and then the door hits him in the face and he has to go to hospital.
I just added that in there in the notes. I thought that was kind of funny.
Spooky.
There must have been other times on Coronation Street where the kids are like dressing up in costumes. I think there was one year that was this Halloween that Tyrone and Fizz had a superhero party for Hope when she had her cancer.
Wrong.
Was that Halloween? I don't remember.
Don't care, it's wrong.
Scary.
Unless it's zombie
Unless it's a scary
Superman.
superhero.
You can be zombie Superman, you can be witch Superman, you can be vampire Superman, but you just can't be Superman. And I will even accept you just putting a pair of fangs in your mouth and going, I'm a vampire, Superman. But don't try to turn up to my house just wearing a neon costume because I won't let you in. Because I'm not even having a party.
That was almost all that I could find about Halloween on Coronation Street. So, I, apart from, it does seem to be a very popular day for weddings. And I don't know,
cheap.
because they've had 4 wedding ceremonies on the 31st of October in Corrie, and it makes me wonder,
often, really, isn't it?
Is this the most common day to have a Coronation Street wedding?
Good question.
I don't know what the most common day is. I think the most famous Corrie Halloween wedding was Les and Scylla's wedding, which was purposely done on Halloween because it was, you know, an utter fright fest, the fact that those two were getting married. And that was when Scylla had her 666 on her curls on her forehead, do you remember? And they had status quo at the reception and everything like that.
Status quo!
But then also, Jason and Sarah Lou had their wedding in 2007 on Halloween, and that was the one that David tried to get called off by recreating the Hillman Canal plunge in the car, but Sarah just was like, I don't care.
I don't give a crap.
My brother's is killing himself by driving into the canal. I'm still going to get married.
Yeah.
Because this is for keeps, this marriage.
Mm-hmm.
We had Tracy and Rob Donovan's wedding was in 2014 was on Halloween, although that didn't actually take place because that was when he was all caught up and arrested for bludgeoning Tina McIntyre. No. So that was still Halloween themed. And then, as far as I can tell, the first Coronation Street Halloween wedding was in 1983, my first Halloween, when Eddie and Marion Yates got married. And I don't think that was spooky or scary or anything. I think they just had a lovely wedding because Eddie was lovely and Marion was lovely. And
I think it just goes to show
had a nice wedding together.
How little we cared about Halloween.
Yeah, basically.
As a country.
Yeah. But they have... So that's kind of Halloween on the show. I think they should do more... I'd like it if one year they like proper went to town on it, or if they had some, you know, a proper murder on Halloween.
I really want them to do this. I can't believe they haven't done it yet. I think it would be amazing. Why can't they have like Halloween Spook Week?
Yeah.
At the end of, I know we have the big week, the super soap week, whatever, in the middle of October. But what they want to do is to pick up new viewers, right?
Mm.
Well, pick up the new viewers and then give them something else fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. I think that if they had... I don't know, has anyone ever been killed on Halloween on Coronation Street? Or
I don't know, why don't you do some research?
It's too late, I'm in the middle of recording. But where they had Richard whack Emily with the crowbar... when they had the spooky film on the TV and everything. That was really cool. And they were able to mix
like
the Halloween-y...
It would be amazing. Oh, I would love it so much. If I was the producer of Coronation Street, I'd go in and say, we're doing Halloween week at the end of October, and that's all my ideas. So
I don't know whether any of the other soaps have like properly pulled out all the stops for Halloween. Do it, Coronation Street, come on.
Well, I mean, they had that week at Easter when everyone came back from the dead, so why can't they celebrate?
I was just feeling last year. So that was Halloween, but there have been a few suspected hauntings on Coronation Street as well, haven't there, Gemma? Do you want to take the floor for this one?
Oh, yeah, because in 1975, Betty and Bet moved into the Rovers while Annie's away, and Betty thinks that she sees Martha Longhurst's ghost.
Martha Longhurst's ghost. Martha Longhurst died in 1963.
Martha Longhurst's ghost sitting in the snug, which is where she died, right?
She did.
She died right there. And she and Bet also find what they think are her glasses on the floor. On the bar, actually, sorry. Betty thinks she hears the voice of a woman talking after closing time, which, as we know, once a pub is closed in this country, you're not allowed to speak in it until the following morning. She thinks the voice mentions Minnie Caldwell. But a customer comes in later and says, oh, those are my glasses. And apparently that means that there wasn't a ghost. So
there was no ghost. There was no voice.
They've obviously got to check the carbon monoxide detectors because they're not working.
See, I don't think I've seen any of these scenes, but I'd be interested to know just how, like, solved it was left, or whether there was any lingering mystery. Because it seems to me like
mystery. I don't understand why they have to solve it. It's like nobody's watching Coronation Street going, well, I'm not watching it anymore. This is ridiculous. They think ghosts are real. Like, just tell a ghost story, and the people that believe in ghosts will go, ah, and the people that don't believe in ghosts will go, stupid.
I wonder what people thought back in 1975, because those are simpler times then. And
Oh yeah, everyone believed in ghosts.
this was still back in the day when people would send wreaths to Granada Studios when one of the characters dies or gets married or something, you know? So maybe
they were like
maybe wonder how many viewers saw this, the first proper, you know, haunting on Coronation Street, thinking, oh my gosh, this is really real.
Oh, I knew ghosts were real.
But yeah, that's quite cool. Well, it seems that was definitely seemed to be left solved. But the one in 1996...
No, it wasn't solved, because she saw the ghost and heard somebody talking. Glasses on a person sitting in a snug.
They don't talk either.
And they don't talk last time I checked, unless it was a time-travelling pair of Google glasses.
There was...
Was it?
No. There was a haunting in 1996, which a lot of people kind of look back on this story and say this was Corrie at one of its silliest. And when we were talking about ridiculous scenes last week, this is kind of one of the classic silly scenes, because I don't think that this was fully explained.
Because it's real.
Go on then, what happens here?
Right, so this was 96. Vera thinks she sees the ghost of Ivy Brennan. Poisoned Ivy Brennan.
Exactly.
On her landing.
And she died a year before.
She's dead, so this was definitely a ghost.
Yes.
Sarah, who was Ivy's young granddaughter, who was nine at the time, also claims that she saw her through an upstairs window a week later. Oh, that's so scary. So she was outside and she looked up and there was a lady at the window.
Apparently, but 9-year-olds aren't necessarily all known for telling the truth.
What are you saying?
Just being, playing the devil's advocate.
Calling into doubt the veracity of this first-hand account of paranormal activity on Coronation Street. Plus, Michael, if that was not enough, the birthday candles on her cake mysteriously blew themselves out. So
just the wind.
Well, there's no wind inside a house, Michael.
So, Maud comes
think
back
you would
in
mean
this.
Breeze,
Old Lady Maud, the fortune teller from 1993, is called back in again.
So her and Vera and Maud then try to contact Ivy at her old house, which is number 5, and Don throws them out. Doesn't like it.
No.
He solves the problem by hiring a fake exorcist to get rid of the ghost, but then Vera thinks that Ivy's soul has gone into the pub.
This was quite a lengthy story, I think, in 1996. That's what I was going to say.
So she's the landlady there at the time, so she thinks that the Ivy is now haunting the Rovers.
Yeah, Vera is in charge of the Rovers at this point, and she thinks that Ivy has moved in with them. I must have watched this, because I started watching Corrie back in 1994, and I've only got vague memories of this, but I'd love to see it again properly, because this all sounds pretty fun.
Well, you will do eventually.
Oh yeah, it'll come round again, won't it?
Jack thinks this is a crock, but he goes along with it because he thinks that they can get some publicity. So he makes T-shirts that say, "Come and try our spirits."
With a little ghosty on them.
Yeah. Josie, who's that?
I don't even remember.
Somebody called Josie sticks her oar in. She puts a stop to it by telling...
Oh, Josie was Don's girlfriend at the time.
Oh, famous Josie girlfriend.
Yeah.
She puts a stop to it by telling them about the fake exorcism, which means that obviously the ghost has not really been moved from one place to another. If the exorcism was fake, I can test that. Therefore, she should still be haunting Vera's house.
Exactly.
So,
well,
what do you think of that, Josie? It doesn't stop Roy from camping out in the Rover cellar in search of paranormal activity, because Roy used to be
a massive believer in...
a big paranormal nerd.
He was subscribed to the, what's that magazine? Inexplicable. Yeah, he was their number one customer.
Probably.
Until he saw the light. So I thought that was a quite fun story there, because I don't think it was ever properly explained what Vera saw.
God.
There's just a famous publicity shot of her gasping at the top of the stairs.
That's amazing.
I'll have to tell you when that comes back on Classic again.
If anyone knows any ghosts, or if you want to haunt me, do go ahead. In 1997, we've got a bit of a naughty Toya and Leanne story.
Yes. They played with things beyond their understanding.
Beyond their ken.
This did involve Ken.
They worry Janice because they get a Ouija board. Oh my God.
Those
Naughty girls.
Naughty teenage girls.
They get the Ouija board. They think the house is haunted. And I
don't know why they thought the house was haunted.
They also hear noises in the attic. And they find a smashed mirror, which is 7 years bad luck, which luckily has run out by now. Roy, still into the paranormal at this time, helps them by leaving trays of sand in the attic, because everyone knows that ghosts don't leave footprints.
They like to build sandcastles.
Well, he says if it's an intruder, they will leave footprints, because they won't for 1 second think, why is there sand on the floor? I'm not going to stand in this. He says a ghost will leave air patterns.
This is like totally different to Roy these days,
it's
isn't
very
it?
logical though. He's like, the ghost is obviously manifested in reality, and so if it's moving through the air, it's going to disturb it and leave little patterns on the sand.
I wonder what when they decided to not make Roy quite so out there and spiritual.
Somebody
and
must have
everything.
got in the writer's room. This is silly. Let's make him into trains.
Yeah. I've got more story ideas for trains.
Yeah. I've got an idea for a wedding and trains, but not one for ghosts and a wedding. Anyway, the most exciting thing about this is that they find circles in the sand the next day. But it turns out it was actually Les all along, because as you might even remember, we mentioned this before, but all of the houses along that road connected together with the attics back in the day.
Well, for the episodes when they wanted it to be.
Well,
Other times it'd all be it'd all be separate.
But this is how it used to be. All the attics were one.
In the terraced house, yeah.
So he used to go through the attics to sneak into Emily's house to escape the family and watch TV and have a smoke in peace. And then for some reason Emily never noticed, or maybe she thought she was being haunted.
Out.
Maybe she thought she was being haunted by a cigarette smoking ghost. Because I think I would tell if somebody came into my house and smoked.
Yes,
wouldn't you?
I think so.
But can I just ask you a question? The obvious question here: why did Les leave air patterns of a ghost in the trays of sand?
I think he was just trying to screw with his daughters.
If there is, this is the thing.
He's just trying to find.
This is real, because just because one aspect of it can be explained doesn't mean that everything else was not a ghost. So, solved.
Okay.
As a ghost.
Next.
2004. Norris hears strange noises in the
Now this one was properly fully explained, Gemma.
Rubbish. He hears the sound of Vera Lomax. Who in the cabin stockroom, and she died on that exact spot when...
This was Ina Sharple's daughter, I think.
When it used to be the Mission of Glad Tidings.
Yes. Oh, yeah, so she's the one that had the brain tumour but didn't know she had one, and then the doctor told Ina that she's got a brain tumour.
Don't tell her.
Yeah, let's not tell her, because she hasn't got long left. Let's just let her, go out peacefully. So she did.
And then she haunted...
And she haunted the cabin.
In the cabin.
50 years later.
One day, he hears noises. He also, a kettle, the fuse goes. Plus, a box falls on his head. Ghost.
Poltergeist.
Good word, Michael. You're learning things. He holds a séance with Blanche, Betty and Rita, and then another box falls off the shelf. And the candles start to flicker. Ghost.
No.
Apparently not.
It was damp. Damp caused all this to happen. It made the shelves bulge, the boxes fall off.
Can I just point out, right, that sometimes people in their search for an answer, skeptics often come up with explanations for things that are more ridiculous than it being a ghost. Damp causes sounds and things falling off of things.
They should have revisited this story when Audrey's house had damp the other day, and not the other day, the other year, and then made me think it was Alfie haunting her.
Listen, this whole time Audrey's been going, I don't want to go home, it's damp. I don't want to go home, the electric's gone. I don't want to go home, it's flooded. Actually, she's been haunted.
Grasmere Drive ghost.
She's been haunted, and she's too afraid to say anything, because she knows that people will mock her like we're mocking these stories here.
Yes.
The stories of true ghosts.
I remember, I don't know whether I really enjoyed that story too much, but one thing I did like was Blanche and Betty and Rita and Norris having their little séance together, because that was quite funny. Good bunch of characters there.
In 2010, we have a real ghost.
This was a verified Coronation Street ghost in 2010.
Real haunting of Vera Duckworth appears to take Jack away to the afterlife.
Brilliant.
We had a comment from Patricia on Patreon who said, "It wasn't meant to be spooky, but I love Vera Duckworth's ghostly appearance when Jack died. It was a truly moving scene and done so well."
Yes.
Yes.
That is canon. Ghost on Coronation Street.
Yes, it definitely is.
Or was it just part of his dying mind?
I thought it was weird how she appeared as a Force ghost with Yoda.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they got Star Wars to let them use that character. 2013.
Did you see the ghosty stories start to really ramp up in the 2010s? It's like, I've run out of ideas for
What should we
stories.
do? Let's have a ghost.
Ghost story? Yeah, we
Yes.
haven't had one for 2 years. Let's get the
I
ghost
don't
story
care.
out again.
I love it. 2013. The Condiment Geist. Roy and Haley are disturbed to find somebody has been moving condiments in the cafe overnight. Beth makes fun of this and says, "Oh, the cafe's haunted." And then another day, the cafe door was found open. And Roy's now sceptical. Something terrible's
He doesn't
happened to
suggest
him.
they leave the sand trays out in the cafe.
He thinks it's Beth playing pranks on them. Then they see the CCTV they've got in there. They see a mysterious male figure moving around, and then and another morning, the cafe cutlery is laid out in neat rows, and then another time the chairs are towered on top of the tables.
Just wants to tidy up, this ghost.
As making a mess it is. Turns out it was Roy sleepwalking.
Yeah, so that turns out a bit silly in the end.
He thinks he's going mad, but that's just the beginning of his problems.
Yeah.
You think this is bad, you just wait.
I liked the 2014-2015 ghosty story, which was Norris and Amy.
really liked this one. This was probably my favourite one.
I think this is my favourite ghost story. Just because it had Amy in it.
I also like the fact that Norris was using technology to
Oh yeah, he just
modern
got his tablet, hadn't he?
21st century ghost hunting.
I wonder if Norris has still got that same tablet, because that's like 5 years old now. If it's still up and running, then that's had a good innings. What happened, Gemma?
So he's looking on Google Earth, looking at Coronation Street, and he sees what looks like
Vogel Planet, as they probably
Vogel
called it.
Planet. View space. He sees what looks like white smoke outside number 1, and he then checks to see when was this image taken. Well, Ken realises that this was the exact same day as when Blanche died.
So is her spirit ascending to the heavens?
Her spirit was captured on satellite video. Amazing. Norris then
Definitive
thinks...
proof.
Well, yeah, he's got a photo of a ghost. What else do you want? Norris then is convinced the house is haunted, and Amy picks up on this and starts to say that she's hearing things and seeing things. And she
says to Norris that she saw Blanche filling out a crossword in the lounge one day, and then she hands over this crossword, and Norris must pay is written in the grid.
Who was it that was it? Carla was doing that, wasn't it? Wasn't she?
Was
Filling
she?
out. She was writing things to herself. Remember?
Oh yeah, she was when she was going crazy. When she was suffering mental health issues this year.
Oh gosh. And she also tells Faye that she's haunted and she can see ghosts. I can speak to the dead, she says, including your real mum.
Now, I thought that they could have made this story last a little bit longer. It was just a silly little bit of a filler story over the New Year period in 2014-15, and I was kind of disappointed when after like maybe 2 weeks it was all over.
Nah.
But they could have had this running for a long time.
I do remember
with
there
Amy.
being something to do with the back door or the back door closing or something. This was when Amy was like a bit of a spooky Wednesday Addams, wasn't she? And she was very convincing as a medium channeling.
She's awesome.
And she was a bit quite Blanche-like, so if anyone was going to get possessed by the spirit of Blanche, it would definitely have been Amy. 2016, this was also a bit spooky.
Oh yeah.
Because remember it's coming up quite a lot about Callum.
This is also another Sarah storyline, who was obviously very in touch with the spirit world because she thought she saw Ivy's ghost in the window all that time ago when she was 9, and now,
let's tell you. Remember how we spoke recently about how Callum died because Kylie hit him over the head with a wrench or something in Gail's house, and then they buried him, etc., etc. Sarah was very traumatised by this. Of the 3 people that were involved in this, her, David and Kylie, she was the one that was affected by far the most.
I just remember this being like a tour de force of acting prowess by Tina O'Brien. I thought she did a
amazing.
really, really good job.
This was great because this was kind of like she was literally haunted by the memories and the knowledge of what she did, kind of like a Lady Macbeth. And she gave birth to Harry 5 weeks early, who is Callum's son.
Yes.
And she started to be convinced that the baby could see his dead father in the house. Because babies are spooky anyway when they are looking at things that aren't there. All you need is a dog doing the same thing or a cat or something hissing at the corner of the room. She starts going into the annex and speaking to Callum, who's still underneath the floor at this point, I think. And she tries, then she's convinced that she needs to she's convinced that a christening is basically an exorcism for babies. So she tries to get Harry christened really quickly so that Callum can't sort of infest him, I guess. And she also starts to think that she can see Callum walking around on the street. Absolutely horrifying to be in Sarah's head at this moment. Unfortunately, she was actually going a bit mad and had to be sectioned because this is not normal. And perhaps most people who think they're being haunted just need a bit of a rest.
Yeah.
The most famous and recent,
notorious.
Yeah, infamous is the good word. I've got to tell you this. I was looking at a menu the other day for a burger bar, and they had their burger was the infamous something burger. Another example of somebody using the word infamous when it doesn't mean what they think it means.
Yes, terrible.
I thought we learned this from the Three Amigos, that infamous doesn't mean super famous. Anyway, the most infamous and stupid ghost story of all time on Coronation Street, although one I think I am looking upon with more fondness the greater the distance of time between me and it.
I think I am as well.
It's in 2008 with the Black Bull Butcher. 2018. Peter buys the snooker hall on Victoria Street, which still doesn't have an owner because it's haunted, basically.
Yeah, 1 year later and it's still empty.
Yeah. So Peter shows Simon around and they find a snooker cues that are arranged into a pentagram and get out 666 on the chalkboard, because if I was a ghost, I would write that, definitely.
Yeah.
Turned out it was all a big old prank from Kirk and Dev. Can you imagine Kirk and Dev doing this now? I can't imagine him being in it. Peter realises that they've done this, so he summons them into the hall and somehow manages to find a projector and a load of really expensive kit, hires an actor,
a projector that can somehow project a 3D kind of image that can
move at you.
Can move at you, yeah.
And hires an actor to pretend to be the Black Bull Butcher, gets a costumed person in, makeup department, really good lighting guy, just to record all of this and then play it back to make them think that Dev and Kirk were being haunted by the Black Bull Butcher, who flew through the air at them with green spooky light, and I think maybe there was mist.
I think that the special effects person at Coronation Street was just trying to show off a little bit too much with this one.
Carla and Jeff were in on this too, and I can't imagine them doing anything.
He's a wrong one.
Fun. And they both run out into the night screaming.
Betting themselves.
I thought you said, what a prickster then, which I guess is a good way to describe him.
See, I really enjoyed the stuff where they were going through the snooker hall.
Yeah.
And they had the green you know, the infrared light and everything, and it was really like an episode of Most Haunted. And I thought, this is fine. It's, you know, it's around New Year,
Cheesy.
Christmas sort of time. It's fine. Let's have something a little bit cheesy. But they just completely missed the mark with this ghost, didn't they? Because it was just far, far, far too professional looking.
I don't understand why they couldn't just hire, say, this is my friend Bob, who I'm going to get to pretend to be a ghost, and just have the man jump out and go, I'm a ghost. Why did they have to have a projector?
I don't know.
Because it doesn't make any sense. Where did they get it from?
And when people look back on it, I think they just remember about how realistic it looked, and they're saying, did they say Coronation Street was actually haunted there? Like, you kind of forget what was actually causing it, because when you remember it, it did look just a bit too real. It's a shame, really, but...
Yeah, like a real ghost is what you're saying.
But anyway, it could mean that 2020 could be the time for the next haunting on Coronation Street. So I'm looking at every couple of years they have a ghost story, Gemma. So
please have
maybe
one
this is going to be the star attraction at the 60th anniversary. They could have like the ghosts
of all the residents.
Yes, they could just have a death day party kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of Harry Potter here. Yeah, just get Hilda and Ina and Elsie. Yeah, and they could all converge together on the street at midnight. That'd be cool. I don't know how they'd do it, but CG is good these days.
Ian, call us. We've got loads more ideas where that came from.
The only other haunting on Coronation Street, and I believe this is not canon, was as part of the 2012 Text Santa campaign, which I wish they hadn't stopped doing, because that was awesome when they had that Text Santa programme, which had a load of little skits from Coronation Street and other ITV things. But anyway, the 2012 one was a parody of A Christmas Carol with Norris in the role of Ebenezer Scrooge, and he's visited by the ghost of Mike Baldwin, who is the Marley character, and he says that you're going to have further apparitions into the night. So Maxine appears as the ghost of Christmas past. That was nice to see Tracy Shaw back again, and she shows him a vision of himself as a young boy refusing to go carol singing, and then Derek Wilton shows up and takes them around to see all the misery that Norris is currently causing in the Windass and Grimshaw houses. And this can't have been that long before Peter Baldwin died. I can't remember when he died.
I thought it was 2015.
Was it? And then finally, Vera shows up, which was great, because this was, I think, 4 years after Vera had died on the show and 2 years after Jack had died. And I know that Liz Dawn had been in quite poor health in the 2008 time, which was why she had to bow out of Coronation Street, but she was looking a lot healthier then, which was lovely. But anyway, she showed him a vision of the future, and everybody's celebrating his death, just like the Christmas Carol, and then he wakes up the next morning a changed man. So that was all quite fun, and it was nice to see some of the older characters back on the street again. And Johnny Briggs, legend, and Liz Dawn and everything. That was great. So those are our haunting-y, ghosty stories on Coronation Street. But I've also got a few examples now of attempting to contact the dead, because Coronation Street's got a bit of a history with mediums as well. And the original Corrie medium, I believe, was Hilda Ogden, who believed that she had the gift and that she could also, like Maud Grimes later, I suppose, give tarot card readings and read tea leaves. Yeah. So... you grabbed me by the wrist.
Because your wrist keeps clicking.
I got clicky wrists, sorry. Anyway, she read Valerie Barlow's tarot cards, and she correctly predicted that she would have twins, which she did, Peter and Susan.
I don't want to disparage mediums, because I think ghosts are real. So mediums probably real too. But I will say, predicting things on a TV show that's been written,
she just
not such a great.
She also gives tea leaf readings as well, because Stan says that she can get a bit of money out of this.
She saw the Grim.
I know, but it turns out that whatever she went and predicted, Stan then went around and made it happen. But she also made 2 predictions that came true in 1977, and then she went on to hold a séance, and this is a very famous Coronation Street scene, and if you haven't seen this, get on YouTube and watch it, because it's really, really well done. So this is Hilda, Bet, Susie, Elsie and Gail having a séance all around Hilda's table at number 13, and they kind of get in there ready for it, and Hilda says has taken it all very seriously, and then they start to hear a knocking sound, and then Hilda's like, oh, it's just Stan going to Kazi. We'll have to wait. And then and they just sit there, like, waiting patiently, looking around, looking at each other, and then there's, like, a toilet flush room upstairs or whatever. And then Hilda starts going into this trance, and she's like going, she did this brilliant. This was a really, really great performance by Gina Alexander. And then she says she's contacting this person called Arthur, and Elsie wants to know who it is they're talking to, and it turns out that Arthur feels that there was a sceptical attitude in the room and says that nobody there wants to talk to him. But then the tablecloth got whisked away, and Hilda, like, they all kind of stand up, and Hilda appears to have no memory of the event. I don't really know whether they explained how or why the tablecloth got whisked away, or whether it's like David with his psychic powers of Chris Packet moving from 5 odd years ago.
Yeah.
But Elsie isn't convinced by any of this, but Gail thinks it's very spooky.
It is spooky. Gail's correct.
Yeah. So I wonder whether this ghost of Arthur sort of implanted itself into Gail, and that's why Sarah Lou is in touch with the spirits.
Oh my God. You're right.
That explains it.
It must be.
Honestly, if you haven't seen Hilda's seance scene, get on YouTube and watch it. It's really, really brilliant. Now, the next one that I saw, which is also to do with mediums, I watched on Classic Coronation Street last year, and this is at the time when I was really, really enjoying Ivy as a character, because she'd got herself sort of right het up about the fact that Brian had been, taken before his time, he'd been stabbed, and she thought that she would be able to go to this Weatherfield spiritualist church and get in touch with Brian from beyond the grave. And because sort of being a obviously very devout Catholic, her faith was massively tested during this time. But she believed that she was getting these messages from Brian from the other side. And then she gets a message that Martin is going to... there was the message related to Martin and a car crash, and she went and warned Gail and says, Gail, where's Martin? He's going to be in a car crash, watch out. But it turns out, I suppose, even though this wasn't necessarily real, that Bet believed that this Martin that she was talking about being killed in a car crash was her son, her secret son Martin, who nobody else knew about. He died in a car crash as well. So that's pretty spooky. So she didn't
tell anybody that that's what the message really was?
I think she might have told Alec, and then Alec might have gone to Ivy, look, stop messing around with this, you're scaring my wife. But I can't remember. But this is a really, really fascinating story, actually.
Proves ghosts are real then, doesn't it?
Well, more proof.
Yeah, proof.
Now, we had, in that 2003 Halloween party that I mentioned earlier, there was a medium there called Terry Metcalf, relation to Tim, who knows? And this is, like I said, this is not long after Maxine was bludgeoned to death by Richard Hillman, and Fred persuaded this Terry Metcalf to pass on a message from Ashley to Maxine, because he was still like, he couldn't get over her. I mean, you wouldn't, would you?
He just died. Get over it.
So she tells Ashley that she's had a message from a woman whose name begins with M, and it's not Marion Logan, and that she still loves him. And Ashley storms out because he's like, no, this isn't real. Somebody's told you to say this. I don't believe any of this. But Terry tells Fred that the message was actually genuine.
Oh my God, it's a ghost.
Just a coincidence, Fred, you were telling me to say this message, which I actually really had.
She goes, yeah, I know, Fred, you don't need to tell me twice.
So the most recent medium that we've had in Coronation Street has been Rosemary, hasn't it?
Yeah,
who I was
spooky
always
Rosemary.
kind of hoping that we'd get to see again. It was nice that we got a little return for her last year.
She's
but
a real psychic.
Go on then, tell us the story of Rosemary for those new listeners who may not have seen Coronation Street.
Well,
for long.
So she turns up at the salon because she says that Mrs. Abercrombie had recommended her, but Mrs. Abercrombie was dead.
Oh.
She died 6 years before, but she's still giving out recommendations. What a great customer. Tell you what, Audrey should be grateful for a loyal customer like that who will even recommend her services from beyond the grave. Because some people, you can't even get them to give you a review on Yelp or iTunes. She tells Audrey that Alf is trying to contact her, and she mentions that there's an eternity ring that he had bought her with the help of a peroxide blonde, who it turns out to be Bet.
Oh yeah, they had that scene on Classic Coronation Street over the past year as well. The scene where Audrey got that ring. So
Yes.
I watched it and go, I know what that is.
Oh, I know, this is going to come up in the
This is
future.
going to come up in 20 years' time.
Gail is sceptical, but she changes her tune when Rosemary tells her that she's got messages from Brian, Ivy and Richard.
This was all... I remember watching this at the time thinking, this is all very silly.
And Gail then thinks that her family is cursed by Richard Hillman, and Audrey now is not bothered, doesn't believe any of this, but she tries to convince Audrey and Roy that this is all true, but they then gang up to try to reveal that Rosemary is a fraud. And it turns out they were right, because she was working with Lewis Archer to try to con Gail out of a load more money.
Yeah, that's how Lewis came back in the show, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't remember what happened to her, but I think she just ran away.
I remember her running... I think she got arrested. So, yeah.
And Audrey
I think
was
probably
like,
that's the last we've seen of
ooh,
Rosemary.
Lewis Archer.
I just remember at the time thinking this is typical modern Gail, believing that she has actually been cursed by Richard Hillman.
I don't... listen, ghosts are real, but you can't be cursed by one.
Okay.
Why would you... This is like a plumber doing his own plumbing. Why would a ghost curse you? They can haunt you themselves. It's like outsourcing, isn't it? What's the point? What else are you doing? How lazy do you have to be? As a ghost to curse somebody.
That's all the ghosty stuff on Coronation Street that we can find. But it turns out that Coronation Street in real life
Oh, tell me more.
has a little bit of a ghostly history. Now you
Ghosts
tell
are
me.
real.
You tell me, Gemma.
Ghosts are real.
Love this.
I'm loving this so much. Granada Studios was built on an old cemetery, which was demolished 30 years before the studio's construction.
So this is Granada Studios where they don't film anymore.
Yeah,
But,
so?
yeah, the story was that it was haunted, wasn't it? And over the years, various people involved in the filming of Coronation Street said that they saw ghosts or heard stories or whatever.
Because if I was a ghost, I would definitely haunt the place I'd never been, where my body was buried.
Yes. So Tony Warren even said that he saw the ghost of Pat Phoenix.
Well, you
there.
can't argue with this, can you?
He said, I'd smell this great gale of perfume. After Pat died, one of my dogs, who'd always go bananas when Pat came to the house, suddenly started to behave as if she was there again.
Yeah, dogs know things. You ask a dog if ghosts are real.
They even had the episode of Most Haunted filmed on that set, didn't they?
Because it's haunted.
That's on
Most
YouTube,
haunted.
isn't it? We watched that last year,
Yeah, we
I
did.
think.
They said that there was
They had,
a guy...
Sue Cleaver and Simon Gregson and a few of
they
them.
saw a ghost. They said that there was a guy that worked there who died and everyone liked him and he was on the crew, wasn't he? And they said that he haunted the place.
Yeah, and then they had that episode of Inside Number 9 last year.
Yes.
It was also filmed in the same spot, which there was sort of made out to be haunted.
Yes, because they had the same similar sort of story, didn't they? They picked this kind of altered the story a little bit, and it's all true.
So in 2014, one of the guides at the set reported seeing a child and a woman dressed in Victorian clothes.
Yep.
And another woman who appeared to float before disappearing into thin air. And then a couple of years ago, they were having a music festival there called Granada Land. And the bands who were due to play there, their music equipment randomly exploded during a rehearsal.
Randomly exploded, or exploded because a ghost used its
exploded.
powers?
So they even got a priest in and performed an exorcism.
Yes, and I remember that was on Inside Number 9 because they showed a clip of him walking through this big, looked like an aircraft hangar.
Yeah, and that Inside Number 9, they were going to film at the Granada Studios, but they pulled out, reportedly pulled out and didn't actually film it there.
Because it was too haunted!
Because it was too haunted, and they thought we better be on the safe side for this one, better not tempt fate.
What if we film a ghost story and a real ghost comes and ruins it?
I'd love to speak, apparently quite a few of the Coronation, a small number of Coronation Street cast buy into this story of it being haunted.
I know some of them who definitely don't, because we spoke to them about it. I'm not going to say who it was, and they were like, what a load of crap.
Did we? I can't remember
Yes.
that. That's funny. Well, Bill Roach says that he claims to feel the presence of Anne Kirkbride there.
In the new set, though.
in the new set, so I think he's getting a bit confused about that one.
No, she's very dedicated.
Sue Cleaver said that so many people have seen and felt the same things, that there has to be something in it.
True.
And Kim Marsh says, I used to hear loads of stories of people encountering ghosts when we were there. I never witnessed anything, but I always felt a bit creeped out. So she's hedging her bets a little bit there, is Kim.
I tell you what, though, we did get to sneak in to where all the dressing rooms are in the Tony Warren building in the new set, didn't we?
Yes.
And do you not think it's a bit spooky in there? Just because...
In the new set?
Yes, listen, just because there are all these doors and you don't know who's there and who isn't there and if anyone's around or not, and it was quite quiet when we went.
Yeah.
And we saw the ghost of Simon Gregson.
Going to the toilet.
Who knows if he was there? He could have been an apparition.
I don't know, does he remember us? If he doesn't, it's definitely a ghost.
Or were we the ghosts?
Now, there's been a couple of other famous, well, not famous, there's been a couple of other Corrie filming locations which have been
super
haunted.
famous ones.
Most recently,
Yes,
the
most
prison,
recently, HMP Shrewsbury,
where they filmed this week's riot scenes.
where they had the riots this week, and it is a prison that was closed in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And they filmed, and now it's like a tourist attraction. You can go around and look, and they do ghost tours, but they also have films sat there and things. And
But I didn't hear of any ghostly apparitions when
haven't
they were
heard
filming these
anybody
scenes.
say that they saw anything there, but they did film an episode of
They
Most
filmed
Haunted,
they filmed 3
and they
episodes of Most
also
Haunted there, apparently.
filmed another one with Nick Groff, who was in...
Yes.
Oh, I forgot what it's called. It's like a Paranormal Location or something like that. They filmed an episode there. And I tried to see on the internet to see if I could see the episode, and it's not available. But there were lots of executions there.
Yeah, oh yeah, this is a prison that's famous for having like hundreds and hundreds of people hung there.
Yes, and it was also very overcrowded.
So if anywhere is going to be haunted,
it's got to be there.
it's got to be there.
And they said that there were dogs barking and women screaming or something.
Yes. No, so
Proof.
although there were no ghostly haunting-y stories there was earlier this year
Yes.
another one, wasn't there? So,
Oh, yes!
well, go on, you tell this
Well, this
story
was
as well.
when we
It's our
had
last one for the evening.
Clayton, the hostage scene with Clayton and Shona.
Yeah, that old house,
It was like in
wasn't
an
it?
abandoned place, and it's called Antwerp Mansion in Manchester. And this has also been filmed on, featured on Most Haunted before.
Do you think the
And
places that have been on Most Haunted are just like cheaper to film in because...
no one will live here because it's haunted. This is a quote from Julia Goulding. We were doing a take and the sound operators had to stop the take because there was lots of whispering over the booms. It was, please everyone be quiet and all that kind of thing, but nobody had been talking at all. It was completely silent. All the crews, everyone watching on the monitors, everybody was silent. And this little whispering was happening.
Hey, was this around the time that Julia got pregnant?
Don't make out that she's
Is she
possessed.
possessed? Is she going to give birth to...
Maybe it was
The
the stork
Antichrist.
going, are you ready, Julia?
That was a funny story.
This was amazing because according to the story that came out at the time, there should technically have been the sound of a ghost on the recording of Coronation Street. And at the time on Twitter, I was like, please, can you send it to me? I want to hear this recording. And they didn't send it to me, which doesn't prove that it didn't happen, only that nobody listens to me.
Well, there we go, everybody. That is a potted history of
spooky
all things
Halloween.
spooky and scary and ghostly and Halloweeny on Coronation Street.
And if you would like to have further viewing to supplement your experience today, highly recommend that you watch Inside Number 9, the episode that was recorded. It's got Stephanie...
It's got Stephanie
Beecham.
No, Stephanie Cole. Stephanie
Stephanie
Beecham,
Cole.
someone else. That's
completely different
Martha
woman.
on the longboat.
Completely different woman who was not involved whatsoever. Stephanie Cole is in it, and it is filmed... It's kind of, filmed in the old place.
Also...
And they have clips from the Most Haunted episode of... when it went to Coronation Street, and that is also around if you want to find that on YouTube. that's also pretty good fun.
Also, on the day that this episode is getting uploaded, if all goes to plan, get yourself up to the Manchester Coronation Street tour, because Brian
Yes.
Capron's going to be there this evening doing his ghost tours around the set. And if we were around and not off on holiday, then we would totally be up there. It should be fun. So, ghosts, eh? Enjoy.
Ghosts, real or are you... Ghosts, are they real or are you boring? That's my question.
And with that, let's move on to the next segment.